gone through the things we are going to revive once more in the form of a panel discussion. Just before going to start it, I ask all the panelists to introduce yourself and please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rahul Sharma, the head of Maths Department over here, BGT.
I am Shreya Gaikwad, BGT Social Science, teaching the grades 7 to 9.
I am Anju Nair, PGT Biology. I teach grades from 6 to 12.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Rebecca Abraham, TGT, teaching from grade 6 to 8.
Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Praful. I am teaching social studies to class 8 and 9. Yeah, myself.
I'm Tabitha Nagarwala. I'm the principal of a very happening, progressive school in Ahmednagar with the most vibrant teachers.
So our topic was Professor. I am coming to you. So our topic was experiential learning. So can you please explain what you understand about experiential learning? What is the understanding of this program about experiential?
Answers for the grade also, but learning is not only happening in the classroom, but it is also happening beyond the classroom. It is not like just reading and listening or traditional way of teaching, but experiential learning is going beyond this traditional teaching. Like we can do main activities, we can do the quiz, we can have quick trips, we can have debate, we can have discussion, we can have many things where we can promote the participation of the students. We can get them engaged in the activities. So there are combination of many things. Like activities are there. There are like no reflections, which is more important, than the teaching. Okay, so what I learned from the activities. So overall, we learn. We have very good experience of experiential learning, and the best part of this discussion or training is that we are so keen. I personally is very keen to implement this thing in my social studies teaching. So definitely, it will create a difference.
Whenever we are implementing that in our classroom, that only it will become positive, otherwise it will become fruitful.
Excellent.
So experiential learning is nothing, it's a method of imparting knowledge through reflection on experiences. Without reflection, no experiential learning. So whenever we are getting the name experiential learning, we are thinking that some experience is there, that is experiential learning. But Anju madam, can you think is there any misconception about experiential learning in the society? Do you think like that?
Sir, I think experiential learning is something that we do practice in our classrooms. What happened because of this training is we got to know a lot of terminologies. But yeah, I believe there was some misconception that experiential learning is not only doing practicals, but there are a lot of steps like reflecting on how much the students have understood and how much the teacher can change the way of looking into things or teaching students and all. So far whenever we heard the word experiential learning, we were only thinking about let's take them to lab, let's do an experiment, or let's show them some videos or PPTs and all. From this training, what we have learned is when learning becomes a personalized thing for each student. When a teacher walks into the class and the student feels that I am going to get involved in whatever the teacher is trying to do or whatever is being taught in the class, I think the whole experience changes. And when learning becomes personalized, then the students also start reflecting on whatever they have learned.
Okay. The main misconception of experiential learning is what our madam taught. We thought experiential learning is taking children into lab or to outside. Hands-on is not the hands-on. That is the main thing we have to remember. Just activities are not giving us any knowledge. It will give only some time pass. But when the proper reflection comes on that, it will be fruitful. Madam? Yes, madam, you can add something.
So I think another misconception is that experience experiential learning is only hands-on. So, which I think is a very, very big misconception, because yes, we do a lot of practical, we take the, like you said, we take the children to the practical lab, or the social studies children go to the museum or go to visit a monument, or let's say, the English teachers have a role play, or in Hindi also. It's not only hands-on, which means it's not always only psychomotor. So psychomotor is when you are actively physically involved, using your fine and gross motor skills. But I think it is also cognitive. So the reflection actually happens in the mind. And that's when you put some thought into reflection, that is when the cognitive domain gets catered to. And also, even if in the classroom you're asking children to, let's say, analyze something that, some data that you have given them, it's not a physical activity. It's an activity of the mind. So which means that in itself also is experiential learning. Drawing inferences from the data, drawing conclusions from it is also experiential learning. So it's not always physical, it's not always psychomotor, it's also cognitive.
Madam, you continue about what is the importance of experiential learning in this modern age of education.
Okay, so I can talk about that for an hour, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. So I think it's very important for every educator to know how learning happens in the brain. And there are many theories for that, so I'm not going to go into that. Maybe I'll do it later when you're not here, keeping the essence of time. But what I do want to point out is that any learning, for it to happen, it happens in the brain. We know it happens in the brain. There are neurons and there are connections which are taking place on every single second. Science teachers will know. Now, every human being is making a connection. Good, bad, whatever experience they have, they're making some kind of connection. Even when right now I'm talking to you, your neurons are making that connection somewhere in your brain. Now, when you are teaching in a class, the students are also making their own conception based on a lot of other things also, but they're making a connection. For that connection to become strong, sometimes you have to reiterate the concept that you're teaching, which can happen with experiential learning. So if you, let's say, some of us do have to use the lecture method, we say rote memorization is not good, we should not focus so much on rote memorization, but some things have to be rote memorized also. So suppose you're teaching a concept, and after teaching you get into let's say a psychomotor activity or a cognitive activity. What you're doing is you're strengthening those connections. Once you strengthen those connections, they go into the long-term memory of your brain. Once anything goes into a long-term memory, it remains there forever. I'll give you a small example. If I ask you, what did you eat for breakfast on Thursday? Do you remember? That was yesterday. But if I ask you, what did you eat for breakfast on Monday, will you remember? No. But since I've asked you something that happened recently, you will now remember on Thursday we had a samosa. Why? Because it's been reiterated. It's not that you get to eat another samosa every Thursday, right? You know that every last working day of the month we have a treat. You remember that? Jis din nahi aata, you ask for it, right? That's kya hua? So how is it that you remember? You remember because of repetitions. Repetitions not only in terms of saying something over and over again to the students, but in delivering that particular concept in various forms. So even if you're making a chart on the wall, it's there. But if you bring the attention of your students to that chart, that means that you are reiterating something that you have already taught in the class. So it's repetition. And therefore, I think experiential learning is extremely important because, like we all know, and we've heard it many times in the last 2 days, that that it's a very personal experience, right? It's a connection that I am making for myself, and therefore when I get involved in something, it's very, very individual to me. And anything that becomes unique and individual to you, you kind of grow an attachment to it, and then you will never forget that. So I think it's one of the most important pedagogy strategies to have in a school, in a classroom.
Yes, there is a large gap between theory and practical. So that gap is filled with experiential learning. Experiential learning gives more chance to explore to the children. Till their level they can go. Without experiential learning, we are taking the children into the teacher's level. Like you watching a movie and reading a book. If you watch a movie, you are watching the imagination of a director. But if you are reading a book, you are getting your own imagination. So this difference is there in experiential learning and ordinary learning. So experiential learning is very much important in this area. And these 2 days, Rahul sir, these 2 days we learned about learning outcomes. And it is said that learning outcomes should be smart. So can you explain that? What is this learning outcome should be smart?
The learning outcome should be smart means the S in S smart stands for specific, and M is for measurable. Whatever the learnings we are doing, it should be measurable by some criteria. A is for achievable. Whatever we are teaching, it should be achievable by the student, even by the teachers. And R is for realistic. It should be realistic, connected to the real life problems. And T is for time bound. It has to be bounded to the time limit. It should not go beyond that.
So that thing we have to keep in the mind, learning outcomes. Already we discussed that 3 types of learning outcomes are there. For total year and for total schooling, 1 learning outcome. 1 year, 1 learning outcome. 1 lesson, 1 learning outcome. So these all learning outcomes should be smart, means according to the level of the student. It should be achievable. It should be realistic to their, must keep in the mind. Then we have to make the learning outcome. And the main thing, after all the activities, as we discussed, we have to assess the learning outcome is fulfilled. If first lesson's learning outcome is not fulfilled, second lesson teaching will not be that much effective based on the year-bound learning outcome. So that thing we have to keep in mind. And Rebecca madam, how can we use the power of visualization in experiential learning? Can you explain about that?
The one part that I liked about experiential learning was that other subjects could also be integrated. And sometimes it happens that a child might not be really interested in language, but when I would explain the same concept with a video or relating it to some other topic which he is interested in, they automatically start watching the video, and as we watch the video in the beginning of the session itself, how it explained that the old method was very different as compared to the experiential learning, wherein the child, when he saw things around him, visual, was more interested in performing it. Whereas if I keep on, repeatedly try my best to explain it, but if he's not able to see it, it could be anyway, it could be in nature, it could be a video, it could be a picture, anything. So visual aids do affect a lot, and integrating the topic with other subjects also helps them to grasp the concept well. So visual learning is extremely effective in experiential learning.
Okay, visualization. Last day we read a poem and you closed your eyes and you visualize what is that. That image you thought in your mind.
Yes.
So in that method, how can we use in the classroom, or how we can make our lesson using visualization? How can we make our lessons somewhat interesting? Can you-
Yesterday we had a drill wherein we were asked to close our eyes and a poem was read. And based on that poem, we all were supposed to draw something. So each and every drawing was unique because everybody had their own unique imaginations. Similarly, a child will also have his or her own imaginations. If I happen to get this topic in my English teaching, wherein I would read out maybe a paragraph, or maybe I would read something that's happened, an incident, and I would like the child to think about it and then come up with their own, they may have their own ideas, they may have their own questions, they may have their own mindset about certain things, and when they ask these questions, as a teacher, I would be able to answer them better and solve their doubts and whatever thoughts are there in their mind. So this is how they become more creative, they become more curious, they have the more questions, and the doubts are solved much better in visual things.
And they are visualizing the things what the way they are listening. So they will go deep into that topic. So our explanation parts somewhat will be less. So it is a very good method. And Shreya madam, can you say about this multidisciplinary approach of experiential learning? How it is useful?
Sir, as you explained earlier, children that we have in a classroom, they belong to multiple intelligences. So, within that time constraint, within that class time, we have to cater to all of them in order for them to understand the lesson better. So, with interdisciplinary approach, we can use sciences, we can use social sciences, we can use mathematics, arts, drawing, craft, while teaching one lesson, so that even if the child somehow is not interested in learning the theories, he learns it with practicals and activities that we are doing in the classroom. So I think this interdisciplinary approach is very beneficial for the students, as it not only helps them to understand their favorite subject better, but it also connects them to the subject that they don't like much in a positive manner.
We are saying about the 360 development of a child, and the 360 level understanding of a topic will be done through this multidisciplinary approach. So the whole part of that topic will be given to the child using that. So anyway, in the concluding part, anyone among you can speak better that number. Just you say what is the aim or what is the vision and the mission of this school, and how can you connect experiential learning through that for the attainment of vision and the mission of the school. How can you use experiential learning?
So I'm very happy to say that in some parts, in some aspects, we are already using experiential learning. But maybe with this training, it will probably be used more often. What I do want to also say is that anything that you learn, whether it is experiential learning or flipped classrooms or any pedagogy that you learn, it's always, you should not go out of this room today saying that but how much of it can we really do in the class? We have so much to cover. So no, it's not necessary that, sorry sir, I'm digressing from your question a little bit, and I think this is important. So it's what you can do is, and I'll give you a few pointers here, not every concept or every lesson that you teach has to have experiential learning. When you sit with your textbooks and you know what your syllabus is, you know what your curriculum is, see which are the areas where you can integrate subjects into one single experience. So let's say, for example, in this year's calendar, we have a field trip to the Nagar Museum. I think you've done a lot of subject integration, so I'm not going to go into what each subject can benefit from it. But what you should definitely do is, once in children come back, you should ask them to reflect upon how and where all they can apply that learning to and what they have learned. So I think very important is to have reflection imbibed in us. I mean, that should be a question going on all the time in the school. You know, what is the reflection? What is the reflection? So coming back to your question, basically the vision of the school, I don't know how many of you are actually even aware of it, is to have students passing out from the school who are globally competent, who are equipped with all the skills that are required for them to excel. And that's why our school motto is also strive to achieve. To achieve what? To achieve whatever makes you the best at whatever you do. Which doesn't only mean marks, which doesn't only mean a competitive exam. We could also have artists coming out of the school. We could have people working for NGOs. It could be anything at all. So that is the mission of the school. That's the vision of the school and the vision of the founders as well. The mission, of course, is aligned with the vision, which again means to have the teachers equipped to deliver on that mission. That vision, and to also be able to strive harder each year and keep your vision as that lighthouse, as that aim that you want to achieve. A lot of clear words, I know, but that's how it is.
Okay, thank you, madam. And all the panelists participated well. So, anyway, I think we all members, this is panel discussion. All the members once more went through all the topics what we have taken. And if any of you can add anything, we can add and we can conclude it.
Anybody in the audience?
I have a few
You
things.
can ask the question.
Sure. I have a few things to add here. Like as ma'am said, like we'll be practicing the experiential learning in the school. I'll go beyond that. I would say I will change my teaching strategies in such a way that I will be able to integrate this experiential learning. In my everyday practices. Not necessarily that I will do as a whole, but like in activities, while teaching also, I will be able to understand my student better. For example, if any child is not speaking at all or not participating at all, so I will try to understand why not. If I am teaching something in a lesson, in a concept, I will be asking the prompting questions just to know their reflection. Because teaching is different part and the understanding is different part. So the reflection is very important. If child fail to reflect, it means that child fail to understand. So in that way, I will be changing my strategies, I will be changing my activities or teaching styles as per the requirement. So practicing in the teaching is very important. And I think nowadays students are far better, smarter than the teacher in many aspects. Like they use technology, they use ChatGPT, they use many things, and they judge you in the class. They ask you the questions in such a way, the tricky questions. So in that way, I think we should be way higher, well equipped to address this diverse way. So yes, as a teacher, I would say, as ma'am said, that we will be practicing this, and I would like to practice in my everyday lesson plan in some other ways.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to say that after these 2 days of training, now when I was reading that handout, I came across a quote from David Cole, who gave us the Cole cycle. He says that learning doesn't happen with teaching, but it happens with thinking. And it got me thinking that as a teacher, or to use the correct word, facilitator, what can I do to get my students thinking? Now, it may be the kind of questions I ask, kind of activities I conduct, or maybe, what are the different methods due to which my students, even after I leave the class, they will be thinking about those concepts and they will be, looking around for, concepts and understanding that concept better. So I would say that with these 2 days of training, that is something that I gain, a different what approach I can take so that my students get thinking, start thinking.
Yes, sir. While talking about the every discipline has something that is integrated to all other disciplines. And I think ma'am did that for I think just one topic, but we can try, or at least I on my level will try to include more such topics while teaching, so that social science is considered to be conventionally a very theoretic subject, which bores, if I use that word, bores the student. But if I try to integrate science, if I try to integrate math or even art and craft, I think it will become interesting. And even out of the 100 lot that I am teaching, if there is one child who grows up and tells that this I love social science because my teacher was this enthusiastic, I think I have played my part.
Well said, Shreyas. I mean, it's really well said. So I just want to highlight a point here. There was a time when, and I think all of us have been through the same kind of schooling, where the teacher was the content provider, if I can use that word. You are no longer a content provider, because the content is already available for children to get from wherever they want. So what is your role now? Your role is to guide the children to get that content, to analyze it, to process it, and to make their learning relevant to be able to apply. That is what your role is as of now. Any teacher who is walking into the class with a textbook and saying आज ये exercise खत्म हो जाएगी या आज ये पेज पढ़ लेंगे और इसके ऊपर question answer textbook ही कर लेंगे, believe me, you are on your way out, because that is no longer needed from a teacher. And if your children are not engaged in a class, it's because of this. You are trying to provide content which they already have access to. You're not asking them to sit, analyze the content, derive वो उसका essence निकालना जिसको बोलते हैं, वो आप अगर उनको guide नहीं कर रहे हो, then you are already out of a job, if I can say that. Because content is there. When you are preparing, I'm sure you find content everywhere. So it's no longer, teaching a syllabus or teaching a chapter or teaching. Why do we keep telling you, combine concepts, multidisciplinary, combine subjects, take children out somewhere, give them some kind of experience? Why do we say that? Because this is something that they will not find anywhere. So you are unique as a teacher still, but provided that you are giving them this. It's extremely important for you to make that mind shift. It's very easy. I mean, I know we've not been through that schooling. So sometimes we might find it challenging. कि वो तो दिया पर आखिरी में तो ये syllabus भी तो पूरा करना है ना. I understand that. I've been a teacher for years, and therefore I understand that's a major issue. But I'm telling you, you can easily, I'll give you an example. Suppose I'm teaching nouns and pronouns. Suppose I'm teaching nouns. Let's forget about pronouns. Pronouns is the next chapter in the book. Now, when I'm teaching nouns, I also teach pronouns as a concept because it overlaps. Now, do I need to reiterate the concept when I go to pronouns, the chapter? Yes, but very quickly. I may not spend the same amount of time that I spent on the first chapter that I will spend on pronouns. So I've actually saved on time in any case. And this is a very, very efficient way of teaching because it saves time, it will save your energy. Children will be doing most of the job of studying. They will want to do the homework that you give them if they know it's, they're involved in it. It becomes individual. So all these things, the discipline problems that you see in the classroom, those are all happening because children don't feel that they need to study. They think they're doing it for you or they're doing it for their parents. They think it's not for them. So make their learning personal to them so that they realize, ये मैंने नहीं किया तो there is something that's really going to happen to me or not happen to me, and somebody else will benefit from it by becoming better. So I'm so process that you're going through. So I'm really happy because this is something that, for last 2 years I've been saying, somehow the teachers are not putting their mind into what they're doing. And I hope that from now onwards you actually do. Because if you put your mind to it, your children will put their mind to it. And if children put their mind to it, believe me, your job will be eased out completely.
Okay, thank you, madam. For the conclusion, as madam taught, now it is the age of knowledge. But when we were students, the teacher should impart knowledge to us. Now the knowledge is in the fingertips of all the children. So the duty of a teacher is not to impart knowledge, to mold the skills underlined in their mind. Every child has at least one skill. Without the skill, nobody born in the earth. So our duty is to find out what is the actual skill of each student and make them enhance that skill and make it useful for the country's future. That is our duty. For that, experiential learning is essential. Without experiential learning, we cannot do this. So, in this thought, we are going to stop this panel discussion. Thank you for all the panelists.